Okay, so find this packet. We're going to start backwards today because there's going to be some stuff we've already done and some new stuff. I want to do the new stuff first. So turn to the middle page where it says 4 terms. That's what we're going to do first. And this is not something that you guys have learned before this year or in previous years, but it's not too bad actually. So anytime you have 4 terms, you're going to factor by grouping. And so I'm going to go over the steps while we do this example together. So the first step is just to group the first 2 terms together and the last 2 terms by just drawing like this little dashed line that separates your terms into 2 groups. Okay, and then step 2, you're going to factor the GCF from each group. So looking at what's in front of that dashed line, what can you factor out? What's a common factor? X to what power? Second power, good. All right, so we put it outside a set of parentheses, and then we're going to factor x squared out of both of those, which means it's like you're dividing by it, so you're subtracting 2 from each of those exponents. So that's going to be x. And then what's left over if you factor x squared out of itself? There's something there. A 1, yes, good. Bless you. You're welcome. All right, and then this minus sign comes down. So whatever sign is that, the sign with the third term, that has to come down. So if it's a minus, bring down a minus. If it's a plus, bring down a plus. All right, and then we're looking at 4x minus 4. What can I factor out? What's the greatest common factor? 4. Now, we technically, in this case, have to factor out a negative 4. So it's negative 4x divided by negative 4, which is just x, and negative 4 divided by negative 4, which is going to be positive 1. Do you guys notice anything about this? Like something? Yes, and that has to happen. So for you to be able to factor by grouping, when you factor out the common factor, they have to be the same inside your parentheses. And so they are, so that's good. So now you're just going to do your 2 parentheses like you normally do when you're factoring. What you factored out is going to be in one set. So this x squared minus 4 goes in one set. And then what they had in common, what was left over, goes in the other set. No, it's just x plus 1. You bring it down just like it looks. Now, if you wanted to, you could multiply all that back out. If we did the double distributive, we would go back what we started with, that they are equal. Now, this one is kind of an annoying one. Some of these are annoying because once you do this, you have to factor it again. So what do you guys notice about x squared minus 4? It's the difference of squares. All right, so x squared minus 4 is going to be x plus 2, x minus 2, and that's from a couple days ago. And then that x plus 1 just comes over. So that's going to be the final answer. All right. So we're not going to do all 6 of these examples. I think I'm just going to do 3, and then we're going to go back and do some other types of problems. All right, so on 35, as soon as you notice there's 4 terms, we're going to factor by grouping, which means we're going to divide this into 2 groups and then factor a common factor out of each group. So on 35, we're going to factor out x squared from the first group. Okay, this time we're going to bring down the plus sign. What are we going to factor out of the second group? 9. Good. Does it not look like it should be a 9? All right, and then these are the same, which is good. That's what we needed. So we can go ahead and do our 2 parentheses. What we factored out goes into one group, and then what was left over goes to the other group. Mm-hmm. Now, have we ever done a rule for the sum of 2 cubes? Like, nope. So this won't factor. What was your question?
Is it always going to be x negative 1?
No. No, those two just ended up having the 1, but it changes from problem to problem. All right, that's your answer. Okay, let's look at the next one. So 4 terms, so we're going to group them and then factor out a common factor. We're going to pull down the minus sign. I'm sorry?
Wait, how come you didn't do the 2 parentheses thing like you did with the example?
Because this one is the sum of cubes. There's not a rule for that. It won't, I mean squares.
Okay.
There is one for sum of cubes. There isn't one for sum of squares. So we're done. All right, so that minus comes down. Now, the second group doesn't have a common factor, but we have to put something out there. So what do y'all think we should put?
Nothing.
We have to put something out there.
Put a parenthesis.
We have to put something in front of the parentheses. It has to be a number, a 1. So technically the only common factor they have is 1. We need something out there. So we're going to factor out a negative 1, which is just going to change the signs. Okay. Then we do our 2 parentheses. What we factored out goes in one set. So that's the k squared minus 1. What they have in common, what was left over, goes in the other set. Bless you. Does this one do we need to keep going? Yeah. K squared minus 1 is the difference of squares again. So we find each square root, which is going to be k and 1, and we put 1 with a plus, and we put 1 with a minus. Okay, so this isn't too terrible, I don't think. All right, let's do one more. Let's do 38. It's a little bit weird because, I mean, all these other ones have had x cubed or k cubed. This one has x to the 5th, so it's fine. All right, so when you see this one has 4 terms, we're going to factor by grouping. What can we factor out of the first group? Yes. So if we're looking at the numbers 2 and 18, we can factor out a 2. And then x's, remember, we take the smaller exponent. All right, and that should leave us with x minus 9. All right, we make sure we bring down that plus sign. We can factor out the second group, 7. And that also leaves us with x minus 9, which is what we needed. So then we do our 2 parentheses. What we factored out goes in one of those sets. And then what was left over, the x minus 9, goes in the other set. So that's grouping. All right, now we're going to go back. So when you get done with this one, just flip over the page. Which one? Okay. So we're going to go back and talk about trinomials. Now we learned about factoring trinomials last unit. Some of you were really, really good at it. Some of you struggled with it. It is a hard concept to understand. So we're going to go back and try it again. There are going to be some new things in there that we didn't have the first time. But the first one we're going to do is exactly like what we had the first time. So go to where it says trinomials. Yeah, just flip it over. All right, and then we're going to start with number 24. Okay, so this is one of the ones that I used to call factoring normally. So there's three terms to trinomial. There's not anything in front of the n. So we're going to do it like factoring normally. So we just do two sets of parentheses. If this last term sign is subtraction, do you guys remember what that means for these signs? Anybody? They're either the same or they're different. What'd you say? Right. So if that is a negative 30, the signs are different. Bless you. So 1 plus 1 minus. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that up there. All right. And then what we put here and here needs to multiply to give us n squared. What do y'all think? N and n, yeah. Bless you. All right. And then what we put here and here needs to multiply to give us that 30. Multiplies to give the 30, and then adds or subtracts, because the signs are different, to give you 7. So this is where you use that yellow sheet if you have it. Look in the box that has 30. Those are all the numbers that multiply to give you 30. The ones that subtract to give you 7 are 3 and 10. So we have to decide, we want to get a positive 7, so we have to decide which one of those numbers needs to be positive. Yes, so it needs to be the bigger. So 3, whoops, just kidding. 3 is negative, 10 is positive, and that's it. That's factoring trinomials that are the normal ones. All right. Okay, let's skip all the way down to 29. This one, we're going to use those same rules, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult because this one isn't n squared. This one was n to the 4th. Okay, what do we know about the signs? They are okay. What we put here and here needs to give us n to the 4th. So what do y'all think? Bless you. N squared and n squared. Okay, and then what we put here and here needs to give us that 24. Hold on a second. And then you're going to look in that box if you want to. We want to multiply to get 24 and then add or subtract to get 2. It is going to be 6 and 4. This is another one where it's a positive 2. So we want the bigger number to be positive. Are we finished?
Yeah.
Can we keep factoring on one of them? Yeah. This one is difference of squares. All right, so we'll still have n squared plus 6 because you can't do anything with it. But n squared minus 4 is going to be n plus 2, n minus 2. Okay, so that one is like the one before, just with a little extra difficulty with the n to the fourth. Okay, we're gonna do one more that's kind of like that, and then one of the slide divide bottom up ones. What do you guys think we need to do first on number 30?
Yeah.
Is there a common factor? What's the common factor? X. So we're going to start off and factor out the common factor. Right. And then we're just going to go through the same process all over again. So if this last one is a minus, I know my signs are going to be different. So 1 plus 1 minus. I want to multiply to get x to the fourth again. So I know it's going to be x squared and x squared. And then these two need to give me my 25. So we look in the box for 25 factors and find numbers that either basically add or subtract to get 24. 1 and 25. This time, does the bigger one need to be positive or negative? Negative. Are we finished?
No.
Yay.
Difference of squares.
Difference of squares. So x squared minus 25 is x plus 5, x minus 5. So on the examples, that comes up. It seems like that comes up a whole lot. On the homework, it's not as much. All right. Do y'all remember slide divide bottoms up at all? A little bit. You remember those words? You didn't do it in middle school. I don't think. If you did, they're pretty advanced. Some pretty advanced learning. Okay. So 31, we're going to have to do slide divide bottoms up. The reason it's different than the ones we just did is because we have this number in front of x squared. So when that happens, you have to do it a little differently. All right, so the slide part, I don't want that 3 in the front. So I'm going to slide it over with the 8 and multiply by it. So I'm changing the problem to x squared minus 10x plus 24. So I multiplied that 3 by the 8. Then I'm just going to factor normally, like we just did. What do you know about our signs this time inside the parentheses? If that last sign's a plus, it means they're the same. Good. How do you know what they are?
Plus minus.
Yeah, so this tells you they're the same. This one right here tells you what they are. So they're the same, and they're both minuses. All right, so we want to multiply to get 24, and we want to add to get 10. So you can look in the 24 box at your factors, see which ones of those numbers multiply to get 24 and add to get 10. Yep. Now we're not done. This is how you factor this one. We need to factor this one. So now we have to do the divide step. Do you guys remember what you divide by? 3. So you divide by whatever you did the slide step with. Okay. And then we do bottoms up. So if these fractions will reduce, you need to reduce them. If they won't, then you just take the bottom number and move it up. So 4 over 3 doesn't reduce, so that becomes 3x minus 4. What about 6 over 3? Does that reduce?
Yeah.
To just 2. Yeah. So that is it. That's the final answer. Okay. So let me show you which ones I want you to do. I think it's 9 problems today. So we're going to go to the homework sheet. Hopefully you have 1 through 11 already finished, as that was yesterday. And then we're going to do 2 through 20 even. So that means you're going to do, today, you're going to do number 12. So you can circle it if you want to. 14, 16, 18, and 20. So 12 through 20 even. And then the last 4, I want you to do all of those because I want you to practice because that's the first day we've done those. And then 25 through, nope, 12 through 20 even. So just that first column on 12 through 20. And then all of the last 4, 22 through 25. It's written right there if you want to get it from the board.